Hey, welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to talk about my opinions on whether I like manual wind watches or automatic watches better. But before we get into that, and as always, if you haven't already and you enjoy watch content, wouldn't mind subscribing to our channel. We produce watch content about just about anything, and also like this video, it really does help us out. So I'm going to preface this discussion with the fact that these are my opinions. They are truly what I think about this topic. This is not set in stone. This is not written in the watches Bible by any means. This is purely my opinion. You may have differing opinions, and there's a comment section below, which is exactly the place where you should voice those opinions so we can have a discussion about it, because that's exactly what this topic fosters. So obviously I was thinking about this topic and reading a bunch of articles and watching a lot of videos on YouTube, and a lot of people have different things to say about this. A lot of those videos and blogs just give you the pros and cons of each side, why manual wind watches are great, why automatic watches are great, why they're both bad, but they don't really give a stance for them, what they really truly feel. So that's what I'm going to try to do here and give you my thoughts about it. So I was thinking about this topic, and I kind of looked back at the watches that I had purchased through my watch journey, and ironically, it seemed that most of the watches that I had purchased were manual wind watches. This may be because of the fact that I like vintage watches, and there's a lot more manual wind watches than automatic vintage watches out there. Perhaps that is the reason, but maybe I'm just moving towards manual wind watches a little bit more. So I thought I would kind of just talk about perhaps some of the reasons why I leaned over to manual wind watches. So there's the obvious pros and cons of each side. I've done videos on each of the movements of different types of watches. In these videos, I've talked about, the fact that automatic watches are very convenient, being that the movement is powered by a rotor. All you have to really do is put it on your wrist and make sure you move every so often, and the rotor will wind the watch, so you don't have to wind it. There are the cons of the automatic watch, like a lot of the times the watch movements are a lot thicker because it does have that extra piece, that extra rotor on top of the movement, so the watch movements are a little bit thicker. Then obviously, on the manual wind side, a lot of the movements are a lot thinner, a lot lighter, but you're gonna have to wind it every so often. For me, that's actually a good thing because I get to have more interaction with my watches, but for some people, it's not as convenient as an automatic watch. So I think the reason why I personally like manual wind watches more, nothing against automatic watches, but I think I like manual wind watches more because I have a closer connection with those watches, because I get to interact with them on a daily basis. So as I mentioned, because you have to wind a manual wind watch every day, it basically means that I get to look at my watch, make sure it's reading the correct time, and wind the crown so that the watch can be powered every single day. And being someone who really enjoys consuming watch content, watches, everything about this hobby, it gives me it basically allows me to continue to enjoy that hobby every single day, every single morning that I wake up. Automatic watches are great. They're really nice and convenient, but at the same time, I know that the power reserves on automatic watches are typically more than approximately 11 hours, which is, if you're sleeping 11 hours, good for you. But if you take the watch off and go to sleep and then put it back on in the morning, your watch should still be running at that time, so you don't really have to wind it at all. So I think the main reason why I like manual wind watches more is because I get to interact with them on a more frequent basis. For example, the Memosail yacht timer that I purchased as my first vintage watch is a manual wind watch. That's something that I was drawn to and immediately thought, oh, okay, this is exactly what I want, what I would like to purchase. Also, I have a Breitling Top Time that's listed on our store that I've really, really enjoyed wearing because it is a manual wind watch that I get to wind every single day. I don't think I really hate automatic watches. I think it's just another watch that I get to put on my wrist as opposed to something that I get to interact with on a daily basis. Of course, there's also you can't forget about quartz watches, which also present amazing value, and perhaps another element to this discussion, but a lot of the times the discussion is between manual wind and automatic wind watches. So I hope that gave you an opinion from me. From my point of view, I think I've leaned towards manual wind watches simply because of that connection that I can have. Also, I think there's also there's a lot of variety when it comes to manual wind watches, especially if you're into the vintage watch world. automatic watches were not as popular when manual wind watches kind of came out, let's say around the 60s and 70s, to an extent, and you can kind of go further back from there. And I think that allows you to kind of enjoy different types of watches. I've owned very simple rectangular Universal Geneve watches where it's just the time and that's it, but it's a manual wind watch, and I think there's a lot of variety that you can have within the watches. If you want to really look at this, if you look at my ultimate collection video where I talked about the watches that I would love to have in my watch collection, I think almost every single one of those watches is manual wind. So you have the A. Lange & Söhne Lange 1, the Patek 5196P, the MB&F LM1, all of those are manual wind. So it seems like I'm just drawn to that closer connection, and also the variety that you can get within manual wind watches. So those are my thoughts. I hope this kind of helped you perhaps jog your brain a little bit, make you think about a different aspect of this discussion. And would love to hear what you think. Do you prefer manual wind watches? Do you prefer automatic watches? Would love to hear in the comments section. As I said in the beginning of the video, this is something that we need to discuss. There is no golden rule when it comes to this topic. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you've made it this far and you haven't already, as always, like this video. It really, what ends up happening is if you like this video, it allows for this video to be suggested to other people on YouTube, which means we'll get a lot more eyes on our videos, and we'll be able to kind of grow our channel a lot quicker. So it would be greatly appreciated, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.